Breaking news in Riverside, a deadly end to a wild chase tonight. The driver wanted for a crime in Hemet is now dead. The CBS 2 News team is here, and that chase and shooting is our top story. The chase ended in gunfire on Arlington Avenue at California Avenue in a shopping area filled with people. CBS 2's Tina Patel is there live with the late-breaking details. Tina.
Well, Pat, police are not releasing the name of the suspect, but they do say that he was armed, shooting at people from his car, putting innocent lives in jeopardy, and that's why they say they were forced to open fire on him here. Marie Lua and her family were just trying to go home when they got caught in the middle of police pursuit.
We were driving down Arlington and we just saw probably 15, 20 cop cars just pass us.
A convertible that had been trying to get away from police since Hemet was racing through the streets of Riverside, crossing both sides of traffic when the driver got wedged between a couple of vehicles right in front of Lua.
I had my 5-year-old child in the car, like there was nothing I can do. And so we just stopped our vehicle and pretty much just watched everyone shoot at him, and I don't know if he shot back.
That's what police are trying to figure out. They say they had been trying to contact the suspect regarding a shooting in Hemet when he took off, and he was armed.
We believe that at least twice during the pursuit out in either their city or their county, that the suspect fired shots at the pursuing officers.
That's why they took the opportunity to stop the suspect when they could. But Lua thinks officers put too many innocent people at risk by opening fire.
It's unsafe, and they could have went about it kind of a safer way before he actually hit traffic and they started shooting while he was still in motion.
Now back out here live, investigators say even though there were several different crime scenes during this pursuit, right now it does not appear that any officers or any innocent bystanders were injured during this pursuit or shooting. Again, they still have a lot of investigating to still do here. It looks like Arlington Avenue will be closed much of the night. That's the latest in Riverside. We'll send it back to you.
All right, thanks, Tina. A dramatic rescue this evening at a popular Orange County beach. A 10-year-old boy falls off a steep cliff, and witnesses say it could have been a lot worse. CBS 2's Rachel Kim is live at Pirates Cove Beach in Corona Del Mar. Rachel.
Yeah, Pat, the accident happened on the other side of the rocks behind me. You can see there are trails like this one where people can hike up or walk up to get to the top. Let's first take a look at some cell phone video someone shot not long after the boy's fall. Someone on the beach recorded as paramedics carried the boy off on a stretcher, then carried him up the stairs. Police say the boy fell 30 feet from a cliff here late this afternoon. There were a lot of people around enjoying the beach when this all happened. Paramedics say the child was conscious and breathing at the time of transport, but the first person to come to his aid was a critical care nurse out here with friends. She said she found him laying on his back. He told her his name and said he was 10 years old. She looked him over and didn't see any obvious external injuries or bleeding. He told her his right side, stomach and ribs hurt, but was able to respond and move his hands and feet.
I think he was lucky. If he would have literally fallen on his head, he could be completely paralyzed or quadriplegic for that matter. I mean, a 30-foot drop at any angle. Like I said, just again, knowing that children have a little bit of resiliency, a little bit of give and take in their bones, and the fact that he landed on a softer surface such as the sand, hopefully, very much, I pray that he's doing very well.
We're told the boy was taken to Children's Hospital in Orange. No word on his condition tonight. Reporting live in Corona Del Mar, Rachel Kim, CBS 2 News.
Thanks, Rachel. A family tragedy today in Muscoy near San Bernardino. A 4-year-old boy accidentally shot and killed his 2-year-old cousin, and now the boy's grandfather has been arrested. Police say the young boy somehow got a hold of a loaded handgun and shot his cousin, a little girl. She was taken to the hospital where she died. 53-year-old Cesar Lopez has been arrested for child endangerment. A violent attack outside a West Side In-N-Out. A man was sucker punched and knocked out cold. Now the hunt is on for the person who threw that punch. CBS 2's Jeff Nguyen is live in Palms tonight with more of the video. Jeff.
Pat, the violent attack happened right in front of this In-N-Out, which is surrounded by security cameras. And even though it's been nearly 3 weeks, the victim is still unconscious after he was knocked out in this parking lot. We've highlighted this security video to show you a man looking towards the right when he's sucker punched so hard he's left motionless on the asphalt. It happened at this In-N-Out in Palms on Venice Boulevard at around 8:30 p.m. on June 30th. Brendan Stevenson lives in the neighborhood.
That's brutal. That's really awful. That's a hard hit.
This is video of the suspect wearing a white t-shirt walking up to the burger shop with another man and a woman. Moments later, the man in the white tee cold-cocked the 28-year-old victim. Police say it was unprovoked.
I think it was a sudden, caught everybody off guard, kind of a shocking incident, so nobody really had any distinct information about the suspects.
And that is why police need help in identifying the suspect, who's about 18 to 21, at least 5'8" and around 200 pounds. The man with him is about 17 to 20, around 5'6", and about 145 pounds. The woman with them is believed to be between 17 and 20 with glasses and a ponytail. So far, detectives have not been able to talk to the victim because he's still in the hospital.
Right now, he's completely incapacitated.
Pretty safe around here, walk around all the time, so pretty shocking and scary.
Brendan Stevenson says the violence captured on camera is stunning, but the fact that people almost looked the other way is even more upsetting.
Maybe people were scared. That's one thing that could be the case, but I think it's a little, yeah, it's much scarier to me that people wouldn't immediately jump in and try to help.
Police say that a security guard was working that night. However, we're told that person took no action. As far as the suspect and the two other people, we're told that they drove off in a white or light-colored four-door car. If you know anything about this case, the LAPD would like to hear from you. Reporting live in Palms, Jeff Nguyen, CBS 2 News.
All right, Jeff, that is disturbing. Well, tonight the LAPD is investigating a complaint against actor Anthony Anderson. Police have not released details, but according to multiple reports, the investigation stems from a woman who told investigators Anderson assaulted her after she catered one of his events. In a statement, a spokesman for Anderson denied the allegation, saying, quote, "It is unfortunate that anyone can file a police report, whether it is true or false." The authorities have not contacted Anthony or any of his representatives about this matter. Anthony unequivocally disputes the claim. Director James Gunn has been fired from Guardians of the Galaxy 3. The Disney studios say that's because he joked about pedophilia and sexual assault on Twitter. Gunn tweeted his response Thursday, saying early in his career, he got attention through provocative material. But he says he later developed as a person, and so did his sense of humor. Gunn wrote the tweets years ago. An Orange County congressman lashes out at reporters after he's questioned about his ties with a woman accused of being a Russian spy. CBS 2 political reporter Dave Ryan is here now with the intense reaction to this statement.
Pat, to say the congressman was irritated, I think would be putting it mildly. But It probably doesn't hurt him politically as well. Here's why. After nearly 30 years in Congress, Dana Rohrabacher is fighting for his political life this year. He has positioned himself as a hardcore supporter of President Trump. So getting into a screaming match with reporters who are asking questions about the Russia investigation certainly doesn't damage the brand with the Trump faithful in his Orange County district.
No, there's no conditions. You can ask whatever you want.
Huntington Beach Congressman Dana Rohrabacher told reporters he was there to talk about immigration issues at a news conference outside an ICE facility in Orange County, but they could ask him anything they want. But when a journalist asked him about reports he was connected to a woman who was allegedly being scrutinized as part of the Russian meddling and collusion investigation, Rohrabacher quickly changed his tune.
Yeah, I think you should be ashamed of yourself for trying to divert attention onto another issue. Wait a minute. Don't argue with me. You're not. Are you up here doing the press conference? Who do you represent?
KABC Radio.
Okay, and they teach you at KABC Radio not to let someone make his case and interrupt him? Is that what they teach you? Is that what they teach you? Wait a minute. You don't get a chance to argue with me.
And when reporters persisted in asking questions that Rohrabacher did not want to address, the heat continued to rise.
You can ask me whatever you want, and you can ask a follow-up question if you want, but you don't interrupt the guy.
Rohrabacher's opponent in the November election, Democrat Harley Ruda, told me tonight that Rohrabacher's behavior is not acceptable for a Congress member.
The fact that Rohrabacher went off on a journalist in the way he did shows a complete lack of respect, and his losing his temper and his reaction is not what we want to see in a member of the House of Representatives.
A Rohrabacher will be hard to beat, but he's facing a tough challenge in the midterms from Ruda. In fact, a recent poll showed the race was essentially a dead heat, with Ruda just 3 points ahead of Rohrabacher, which was within the margin of error. Pat, it's going to be quite a race.
Yes, it certainly is, Dave. Thanks for your reporting. Okay. Survivors of the Parkland shooting massacre are in the Southland tonight. That group is on a nationwide tour trying to register voters for the midterm elections and fighting for tighter gun control laws.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're a conservative or liberal. Nobody wants to see kids die, and that's what it's all about. That's why we promote voter registration. That's why we don't endorse candidates. You know, we endorse policy, not candidates.
March for Our Lives has more events planned through the weekend, and so does a rival gun rights group, March for Our Rights. They want to register NRA members and make their voices heard as well. Changes at the LA Department of Transportation after an investigation by our David Goldstein, a city employee with 1 DUI already, then totaled a city truck 3 months ago in what police say was another DUI accident. David Goldstein's investigation found he was still being allowed to drive city trucks, but after our story aired and viewers sent in several emails and calls, the city announced Adrian Corrales had been reassigned to non-driving duty while the case is investigated. He is due in court next month. Babies locked inside a hot car. Next at 11, why the mother refused to break the window and the hero officer who saved them. A stolen tractor swerving in and out of traffic. The bizarre chase you have to see to believe. And more than just a good mood, new research shows why a little hanky-panky may give your life more meaning.
Hey everybody, I'm Garth Kemp. Coming up, get ready. We have some dangerous heat heading our way. We'll tell you about it on the way.
Let him go! We will not let you go. Let him go!
LA County sheriffs threw down the challenge. See how the Orange County Department responds.